I wanted to talk to you today about the importance of rest. Many things that we consider relaxing activities, maybe watching TV or reading a favorite book, having a glass of wine with friends, seeing a good show, these things are pleasurable activities, but they're not necessarily fitting the therapeutic definition of rest. Why should you care about getting a proper amount of rest? Well, our human animal is pretty much the same person that was running around in the Serengeti desert 10,000 years ago, I guess. We have the same hard wiring. In our nervous system, which pretty much controls how you feel and how you interact with your environment every day, your nervous system is divided into a couple different parts. The part that I'm really interested in for today is the autonomic nervous system. I think about it as the automatic one because it does regulate a lot of our functions behind the scenes, things over which we don't really need to have conscious control. How fast my heart is beating, what's happening in my digestion, whether I'm growing or not. A lot of those things are regulated through this autonomic nervous system. I never really have to plan any of these things. So the human animal is hardwired to pretty much have 12 hours of rest time a day and 12 hours of active time every day. And I don't know about you, but I rarely get 12 hours of sleep. So I think we need to start thinking about how to create an environment in which our body can have that restorative time, that reparative time. You see, it wasn't until the 20th century that medical scientists began to really look at what was happening in the human body in terms of when they rest or when they're active. Turns out there's two very separate physiological sets of markers for these two states of mind. So there's a continuum. At one end of the continuum is like dead asleep, very, very relaxed. And the other end of the spectrum might be a full-blown on panic attack. And we constantly kind of flow along the continuum throughout our day and evening. Obviously, we don't often get to the extremes of that, but even in the course of one inhale and one exhale, you're flowing along the continuum. That flexibility to move between rest and activity is very, very important. In fact, there's a marker called heart rate variability, which is a suggestion of longevity. When people are young, they have a very high rate of variability in terms of their heart rate. As we get older, we lose that variability. So if we can improve it, it's a marker of a vital old age, and I think that's something that we all kind of aspire to. So how do we get ourselves so that we're more fluid to move along the continuum? Many of us are used to high levels of activity, high levels of stimulation for the nervous system. Nowadays, we have the internet, we have our mobile devices, we have unlimited entertainment. We never have to unplug. We never have to really release that stimulation. It's very, very hard on our nervous systems. One of my teachers explained it this way: heaven forbid Canada ever have to go to war. But if we did, a great deal of our resources would have to be directed to the military. And over time, our country would start to look very different without the resources to repair our bridges and roads and invest in schools. This would leave our country vulnerable and poor for the fact. So we kind of do that to ourselves when we spend too much time over here in the active area, depleting our resources, using up what we have, and not enough time in the reparative area. We're just not spending our energy as wisely as we could. So when I talk about therapeutic rest, I talk about practices that allow us to really move ourselves over to this rest and digest sort of activity, this reparative activity. In terms of medical communication, we might say the parasympathetic nervous system, which is half of the autonomic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is more active. There's actually different nerves that innervate the organs that come through the parasympathetic nervous system. And again, a specific set of physiological markers, such as lowering of the heart rate, lowering of blood pressure, increased digestive activity, all kinds of things that are kind of anti-aging happen during the time when we're in that rest mode. It's very difficult sometimes to release into that rest mode, especially if you've been very busy or very active, or you've been very successful in your career, you're used to getting things done. It can be very difficult to release and just to be. So yoga has a lot of little tricks and a lot of little interventions to help us switch off the active mind and move into a more restful state of mind. I wanted to show you a couple of those just very briefly in this video.